It's the 20th of May 2013, another dark day for media freedom in East Africa. The Uganda government has shut down the country's independent newspaper, The Monitor, and 2 of its radio stations.
Well, the attack on the publication follows reports that there was a plot to derail President Yoweri Museveni's attempt to anoint his son as the next president.
Indeed, the day-long raid has rekindled memories of similar attacks, such as that on the Standard Group by hooded men in 2006.
Press freedom in East Africa has lately come under threat, particularly from government and political agents that are uncomfortable with the media taking the lead in exposing ills in society. Our coverage begins tonight with that and other highlights.
Dark day for Ugandan media as government shuts down The Monitor.
Ghost building flat that served as hideout for terrorists now vacated. From parliament to court, drama as activists are charged. And still in this bulletin, the tyranny of numbers. Jubilee takes leadership of most House committees.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of KTN Prime. I'm Betty Kialo.
And I'm James Smart. We begin with the latest assault on media freedom in East Africa. Armed police in Uganda have shut down the operations of the country's top independent newspaper, The Monitor, and 2 of its radio stations.
Now, the policemen disabled the company's printing press and website after it published a letter seen as critical of President Yoweri Museveni. Well, KTN's Catherine Omwanto now reports on that attack that follows allegations that Museveni is grooming his son to take over as president.
Midday at Namuwongo, Uganda. Police raided the Daily Monitor offices with no intention of letting up until they got what they came for.
Today, May 20th, 2013, in pursuance of the search warrant, Daily Monitor premises have been cordoned off in accordance with the laws of Uganda.
They claim to be looking for a document associated with a story that has been widely covered by all media, quoting a letter from General David Tinyemfunza to the head of the Internal Intelligence Services.
The letter by General David Sejusa, published last week by the news agency, called for investigations into allegations of a plot to assassinate people who disagree with the so-called family project of hanging on to power. The letter talks of an alleged plan by the Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni grooming his firstborn son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, to take over the presidency once Museveni leaves office, a move that may not sit well with top government and military officials. Last week, the content of the letter hit headlines on major newspapers and television stations and sparked heated debates on the social media.
Police were still at the Monitor's premises as management sought to vacate the court order granted to them by a magistrate.
Police also raided the biggest tabloid in Uganda, Red Pepper Publications, which initially broke the story of General David Sejusa's letter. Ugandan residents are angered by the raid, terming it as draconian.
Our own police is being used against us. So this is really, really sad.
I was contemplating about President Museveni and his determined effort to stay on the presidency of this country and ruin this country.
The raid at the Monitor Publications in Uganda at midday today brings memories of the 2006 March 2nd raid on the Standard Group. These 2 events show a government that is cowardly and is using its power to stifle freedom of speech. Catherine Omwanto, KTN in Nairobi.
Now that story is the focus of our big question tonight, in which we ask, do you think the raid on Uganda's Daily Monitor paper is justified? Do you think the raid on Uganda's Daily Monitor paper is justified? Send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040 and we'll sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this bulletin. Let me now hand you over to Smart. You have been keeping tabs on social media. What are people saying?
All right, indeed, Betty, that story has indeed captured the imagination, if you like, of the social media. An interesting mix of just how the social media and journalism works. And here's a tweet from Ellie Rear, and actually one of the reporters in Daily Mirror, and says, "Empty newsroom, we're all out of here. No paper tomorrow, security operatives take over the newsroom, #siege at the Monitor." Now that's a reporter working at one of the Daily Monitor, and indeed that is what has happened throughout the day, that the reporters have been out, the newsrooms have been empty, and the police have taken over the control of the Daily Monitor and other printing and other facilities. Now, Kasabiti said this is happening in the 21st century and not 1974 people. My goodness. Siege at Monitor, that's the Siege Red Paper and other Uganda. Ifort Knox here in Kenya says Museveni has shut down media house because he's looking for a letter. I really can't. Absolutely shocking. That is some of the reactions that are coming here from the social networks. At Sojo 81, must be embarrassing for Uganda police to spend the whole day searching for one letter. Have they checked page 2 of Google results? Being there a bit sarcastic on that, the issue that I've been looking for, the police that be looking for that. But at Soko, Judge Kisundi says, my prayers are with the Fourth Estate and people of Uganda at large. That's Uganda Press, and that is where we can leave it tonight. Talk about prayers, talk about just what happened today. Siege on the Ugandan press. If I could read just a para of what that the Daily Monitor really printed today. It says, a free press, an essential part of a democracy. It's not a luxury. A free press holds the powerful and wealthy to account. It asks questions, it investigates, it defends the weak. The press is certainly not perfect, but it must be allowed to work. It must be allowed to operate. Betty.
Thank you very much, Smart, for that. We'll be keeping tabs on that developing story. But coming back home, the anti-terror police unit is retracing the final activities of a terror suspect and his wife who were gunned down in an overnight raid in Githurai. Well, neighbors have described Felix Nyangani Otuko and his wife of Somali origin as suspicious and mysterious. KTN's Asha Mwilu spoke to the residents of Githurai Kimbo about the police raid that took more than 8 hours to flush out the suspects.
The building behind me was turned into a battle zone for the better part of Saturday night, well into Sunday morning. In fact, from the gate you can see the bullet holes, just showing you what measures that police were trying to use to get to the suspects inside. Neighbors describe how security agents cordoned off the area to ensure the suspects did not escape.
Mimi nilikuwa kwa nyumba tu nikitayarisha sapa, lakini sikuwa nimeendea sukuma. Nilikuwa najitayarisha nitoke. Kukaa nikasikia risasi zimeanzia. Kwenda kuchungulia, si serikali imejaa hivi hapa nje. Kutunaambia mama mrudi kwa nyumba. Marisasi pua hamujui. Mnashirwa kama ni bomu zimeanza kulipo ama nini. Unasikia risasi, polisi wanapiga risasi juu, wengine wako juu wanapiga zao. Na sisi tuko katikati yao.
Tulisikia risasi. Kutokea hapa kwa balcony ndo tukasikia kitu imelipuka. Kutaka kujirusha ndo tukaanza kusikia mavitu. Sisi tukakimbia tukaingia kwa bafu. Sasa ile moshi ndo ilikuwa inatuumiza yenye walirusha.
For now, the landlord has ordered that all tenants move out. In fact, we haven't even had access to inside that house. We have been talking to the residents outside here, and what they're saying is that they are concerned that there could be other suspects, terrorism suspects perhaps in their midst, and they don't know how to go about it to eject them.
Watu kama wageripua bomb, hii area yote tungekuwa tumekufa, si ndio? Tunakufa nini? Mnakufa nini? Hata kama Al-Shabaab wako na nini na grudge na Kenyans, mimi sijui ni grudge ya aina gani. Si Uhuru abia watu waende juu ya president sasa.
The anti-terrorism police unit is piecing together the evidence and information in the duo to probe their links with the Al-Shabaab. Residents of Githurai Kimbo have described the couple as mysterious, who mostly kept to themselves.
Si tunajua huyo mwanamke juu anachotanga maji, wakati maji hakuna, wakati nakuja ndo tunapatananga na yeye hapo chini. Akichota maji. Huyo mwanamume hatujai muona.
Mimi hata neighbor wao hawaonangi. Isipokuwa msichana nilikuwa kulisemekana ni kama walikuwa na wasiwasi, walikuwa kameonekana hiyo siku tu. Na huyo msichana ndio alikuwa anapigana na polisi.
Police are yet to release any other information on the two suspects. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
All right, now the vetting of applicants for county police commanders is set to begin in June. The National Police Service Commission says the process is anchored in law and cannot be derailed despite reports of disquiet within the force over the move to restructure the police system.
Well, and as KTN's Rita Tinina reports, the Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, says provincial police officers whose positions will be scrapped will remain in office until the new commanders are appointed.
With the May 28th deadline for applicants eyeing the county commander jobs, the National Police Service Commission says it is working on the particulars in the move to restructure the police force.
Ours is as soon as we set those processes in place, and some of the officers even who are in charge of the province have already taken some of the positions that will be advertised and so forth.
The restructuring will see the entry of 47 county commanders in charge of the regular police and 47 county commanders for the administration police. But already there are reports of some disquiet within the police ranks over the new structure.
You cannot oppose that which is stipulated under the law. The truth is that change can be uncomfortable sometimes. Somebody may feel uncomfortable, and I'll tell you, it happens all the time.
The position of provincial police officer and provincial criminal investigation officers have been scrapped by the law, but the Inspector General of Police is making an assurance to those holding the positions.
In the meantime, the provincial formation commanders will still serve in their respective offices, because it's not only 8 provinces. In police, we are not relying on 8 provinces. We have quite a number of them, almost over 30 other formations that we have.
Applicants for the county commander jobs will be vetted. The National Police Service Commission says it is yet to finalize vetting rules.
Vetting is a continuous process. It is not a one-time event.
Unlike the position of the Inspector General of Police, where civilians were allowed to apply, the county commander's job will be different.
They must be members of the National Police Service and serving members, not even retired members.
The entry of county commanders will be one of the major changes to the decades-old structure of the police as part of ongoing reforms to the police service. Rita Tinina, KTN.
All right, back to a top story and developing story. And Uganda police have shut down of the country's top independent newspaper, The Monitor, and 2 of its radio station, the policemen disabled printing press, and have been stationed inside the compound of that printing press, the Daily Monitor there, looking for a letter that is said to be critical of President Yoweri Museveni. We are now joined by the managing director of the Daily Monitor Publication Limited, Mr. Alex Muti. If you can hear me, sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. Now, most of us are catching this story midway. Could you kindly just bring us up to speed? Why are the police searching and shutting down your facilities?
Well, the police joined us at about midday, and basically they claimed to be looking for a document associated with a story that has been widely covered by all media, quoting a letter from General David Tinyafunza to the head of the Internal Security Organization for an alleged assassination plot.
Well, Mr. Alex Muti, just most Kenyan audience are catching this story from today, just after the police came through and shut down your facilities. What really was in this letter? What is that thing that you would say that the authority is aching the authority that was printed by yourself, or that was being followed by your journalists?
Well, I think the problem is not so much, well, there could be a problem in terms of the content of the letter, but it is supposed to be a letter that was authored by the general to his security, and the content of that letter was he wanted them to investigate an assassination plot, according to him, of people who are favoring what has now been called the Muhoozi Project. The Muhoozi Project is something that is viewed as a project that propels the president's son to the presidency. So according to the general, he said that there seems to be a plot, an assassination plot for those who are opposed to that project in the army. So it was an internal letter from the general to the head of internal security. So of course, to us, they wonder how we accessed that letter. But that letter we published in our newspaper, and it sparked off a lot of debate in media locally and also internationally.
But
so that's the center of the discussion.
Sir, I must ask you this. Certainly a long day for you and a difficult day for journalism, not only in Uganda and East Africa.
Yes,
from what has happened today, would you say this has just been a one-off event, or you can say this is actually a demonstration that really media freedom is being suppressed, or media freedom is being cut down or curtailed by the authorities?
Well, for us, the one word that I can say, it is horrifying that this can happen. Whereby you come and close down a media house, basically searching for a document. First and foremost, it's a matter that we had contested in court, that we cannot be able to disclose our sources, yeah? And it was something that was in court, and we thought that this journey would be sorted out by the courts of law. So to come down and close the media house in this day and age in search of a document which we have not authored, we have only published, and we don't even have the original, and this we had already made a statement of, we find pretty unfortunate in a period like this. But it's a discussion that we are carrying on with the authorities. We'll still go to them. We still believe that the reason will prevail.
Alex Asimwe, Managing Director, The Monitor Publications, thank you very much for speaking to us, and thank you very much for your time. This is a developing story, and we certainly will keep at it. Now, 17 activists accused of being part of last Tuesday's Occupy Parliament protests that saw a family of pigs dumped at the entrance of Parliament were today arraigned in court to answer to charges of breach of peace and cruelty to animals. The 17 denied the charges, terming them unconstitutional.
Occupy Parliament turned into Occupy Milimani Law Courts. 17 activists accused of staging the Occupy Parliament protest last Tuesday as a way of registering that distaste at an attempt by MPs to increase their salaries and allowances using live pigs were before the court to face charges which included breach of peace, rioting and cruelty to animals. The activists, among them renowned photographer Boniface Mwangi, however declined to take a plea and were released on a cash bail of 20,000 shillings each or 10,000 shillings surety bail. They even refused to tell the court who was responsible for bringing the animals to Parliament and who poured the blood at the Parliament entrance. The activists argued the charges were unconstitutional. The magistrate demanded that the case be referred to the High Court for constitutional interpretation. The activists had last Tuesday brought business along Parliament Road to a standstill after they staged protests in front of Parliament and even unleashed pigs to drive their message home. Angel Katuse, KTN Prime.
The ruling Jubilee coalition continued to flex its muscles in Parliament, where it has once again taken control of all the 14 committees, locking out the coalition for reforms and democracy. Well, 14 of the 19 parliamentary departmental committees held elections today to elect the chairpersons. And as KTN's Erin Ocheng reports, the election of the departmental heads ushers in a fully fledged 11th Parliament.
The Jubilee coalition's strength in the National Assembly played out in Parliament Monday when the ruling coalition took leadership of all the parliamentary departmental committees, leaving the CORD coalition with no choice but to merely contribute members. Save for the watchdog committees of public accounts and public investments that were negotiated and agreed that CORD will lead, 17 other committees are set to be headed by Jubilee. 14 committees elections held today saw Jubilee take everything home. Some important committees that elected their chairs and vice chairs Monday include that of Finance, that will be headed by Benjamin Langat of URP, Energy to be headed by Jamle Kamau of TNA, and Committee on Education to be chaired by Sabina Chege, also of TNA. Others include that of Defense to be headed by Ndungu Githenji of TNA, Committee on Transport to be under Minor Commander, and Agriculture that will be chaired by Ayub Savula of UDF, a Jubilee sympathizer.
Jubilee members of Parliament had agreed that the seat for Agriculture chairmanship goes to a URP candidate. Then vice chairman goes to a TNA candidate. But in the morning, I decided to lobby MPs from both political divide.
Basically, the members were the ones who were determining, and I thank the members of the Education Committee because they found me fit. We actually gave ourselves, we had to give our CVs, we had to say what we have, what we can offer to the committee.
As chair of the Regional Integration Committee, I intend to partner with especially the Cabinet Secretary for the East African Ministry and be able now to see what we can do for our country.
The TNA URP dominance was strategic in that if TNA took the chair, URP would take the vice chair slot. Tuesday morning, we'll see elections in the watchdog committees of PIC and PSC, together with Justice and Legal Affairs.
We are not necessarily viewing each other as adversaries, as government and opposition, because everybody in this house has a role in terms of legislative function and oversight function.
Among the first business of the committees will be the interrogation of budgetary estimates that were tabled in Parliament and vetting of the Deputy Chief Justice nominee Kalpana Rawal. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
Well, now the Office of the Deputy President has now produced what it says is documentary evidence of the cost of the controversial trips by the Deputy President William Ruto to 4 African nations.
Ruto's office has produced procurement documents that show rejected bids, which the office says were high compared to VistaJet, which won the tender to fly the DP to various countries.
Well, according to the documents, Helicopter Extraordinaire had quoted 19.7 million shillings, while ABM Aviation had quoted 19.5 million shillings.
The DP's office says after rejecting the bids by the 2 companies, it opted for VistaJet, which was asking for a low amount of 18.5 million shillings. All this comes a day after Information and Communication PS Bitang Ndemo defended the Deputy President, saying it would have been expensive and cumbersome for the DP to use commercial aircrafts in his travels.
Indeed, we are staying with that story, but a reminder of our big question. We are asking you, do you think the raid in Uganda's Daily Monitor paper is justified? Just today, police spent the entire day there laying under siege the building, looking for a letter that is critical to the president and talks about succession.
Media under siege.
Absolutely.
Quote unquote. Well, you can send in your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040 and we'll sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live bulletin.
Indeed, he's back and he'll be bringing you business just ahead.
On the business bulletin, I'll be telling you why the CCK has killed any hopes of a 3rd digital signal license. Also, we'll be asking the question, do we need county commissioner and what is the cost to the economy? Keep it KTN.
Hello and a good evening to you. This is the day's business report. My name is Boni Tunya. Media owners might not get the license for the 3rd frequency distribution network they have been clamoring for after all. Speaking during a media briefing for the upcoming East African Communications Organization exhibition set for June the 24th to the 28th, CCK Director General Francis Wangusi said there was no spectrum to warrant the disbursement of a 3rd frequency distribution license. Adelaide Jangole has that report.
It has been a clarion call from media owners lobbying the state for a third frequency distribution license. They have maintained that digital migration should not be left at the mercy of two business ventures and instead should be distributed to one of the local media for fairness. But Communication Commission of Kenya, CCK, says the local media fraternity can only blame themselves for not getting a license in the first place.
We have asked media several times. Bluntly, they told me there is nothing like media owners in business.
And now CCK says new guidelines limiting the number of channels to 48 makes the distribution of a third license untenable.
Already, we don't have sufficient spectrum to be able to give a third signal distribution license, even if we were to do that.
And even if the local media held out for a license, they would only get one after the digital migration, which would not make economic sense given the huge setup costs and the period required to recoup the investments.
Signal distribution infrastructure is so heavy that it might not even take, even the two that are doing now, it might not take less than 10 years to recoup their investment.
CCK says the only recourse available for local media is to partner with the foreign firm that won the digital migration tender. The news will force the local media back to the drawing table, especially since one of the firms licensed to distribute the frequencies has pulled out free-to-air channels from its bouquet. The government has set a September deadline for the move from analog to digital TV. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Now, the role of county commissioners has come into question again as activists on governance review the multiple structures created to function at the county level. They now urge the national government to examine the value added by these parallel structures. KTN's Joy Doreen Bira has more on that.
As the devolved system of governance starts to take course, 210 billion shillings has been allocated to the county government to fund their operations. However, governance activists are now raising the alarm on the resources management for whom county commissioners have fallen victim, their relevance being put to the fore.
This is expensive. If you're supporting national government staff all the way to the village, and you then have county staff again all the way to the village, that's all public resources, and that's not money well spent.
While county commissioners' positions appear parallel to the new structures of the county governance, the Senate is considering a review of their value addition to the counties.
Soon, the Senate will pronounce itself on that matter after analyzing the actual occurrence in the various counties. It's almost like half of the counties, or let's say about 10 counties are complaining about county commissioners. The rest of the counties are quiet, so you don't know whether they're happy or they could have complained, but the governors kept quiet. Some of the counties have reported that they are working so closely with the county commissioner.
The multiple structures created, it appears, are eating up resources meant to manage and develop counties further. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Business Today.
Now, it will be soon mandatory for clearing and forwarding agents to acquire special certification to operate the country's border points. Through a joint initiative with Trademark East Africa and the Federation of East African Freight Forwarders Association, the Kenya Revenue Authority is working on a curriculum that will see all clearing and forwarding agents undergo training to improve efficiency at the borders. Cases of congestion and malpractices have painted a bad image of the country, which is the main artery of trade in the East African region. Busia is the busiest border crossing between Kenya and Uganda, while border town of Malaba, that is situated approximately 5 kilometers to the north of the Uganda-Kenya border, is the second busiest crossing point along the common border.
So we're trying to bring things together in a comprehensive push to facilitate trade, recognizing key choke points, and then developing programs with partners and stakeholders to address those choke points. We're working on developing something called single window information portals. And these are very innovative, and we've done one with FIAFA. And essentially what it is, it's an online portal where you can access and provide information, which can then be shared with the revenue authorities or whomever you want it to be shared with. So instead of going to 10 different offices, we're hoping you can access everything online, and then you have a one-stop center, if you will, online.
Let's now go to Athi River, where senior management at the Kenya Meat Commission have only 3 months to turn around the parastatal ridden by debt to suppliers that currently threatens the survival of the meat processor. While on a tour of the Kenya Meat Commission plant in Athi River, Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries Felix Kosgei warned that KMC which reopened in 2006 after a 15-year closure, risk collapsing yet again if prudent management was not employed. During the tour, livestock suppliers lamented about unpaid debts running as far back as 2011.
This commission is very critical in the livestock industry. It is a commission that always comes in whenever there are challenges which are caused by drought. It's a commission where it always stabilizes prices whenever there is a lot of competition out there.
All right. Well, those were some of the top business headlines today, but the Kenyan shilling has maintained its steady rally against world major. Well, let's take a look at how that is happening right now in the Money Market Report coming up next. Well, that's all the business for tonight. My name is Boni Tunya. Good night.
KTN Business Today in association.
All right, it's now time for KTN Sports Today. I am Nicholas Mudimbam. Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Culture and Arts, Dr. Hassan Orio, took over his duties with a warning to freestyle federations that they soon find no space to operate in Kenya's sports space. Dr. Orio challenged to embrace the spirit of the letter of the Sports Act to ensure sports standards are lifted to another level. Wario, who addressed journalists in his Kingdom House, said the government will first ensure ongoing projects, including completion of sports stadiums, are completed. Expectations are high this time round as the new Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Hassan Orio, promised to streamline the operations of all the sports federations with a view to improving results. Dr. Orio, a career anthropologist, admitted he has a lot to learn from the technocrats in the ministry, but he was under no illusion that the ministry's operations will not be the same again.
Our doors will be open to work with all these federations that require support, whether in setting up their framework and so on and so forth. But you must be accountable. You must be transparent. And we will ask you that as many times as possible.
The Sports Act that came into being early this year will be a streamlining tool, and the federations have been invited to embrace its spirit to avoid a necessary clash with the law.
The Sports Act, in a nutshell, talks about various things that will help us streamline the sector. And my key sprint there is implementing it.
Main target for the new man at the helm of a ministry in which millions of passionate sports enthusiasts in the country are watching closely will now steer the quest to host the 2019 All-Africa Games and to begin immediate preparations for the 2016 Rio Olympics and the 2017 Deaf Olympics.
Rio 2016, the preparation begins now, and we want to see action now. We're always caught on the wrong foot. And it's all about planning. If you don't plan properly, then don't expect results.
This one, you deserve it. May God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The Cabinet Secretary also met with the heads of department in the ministry. Moving on now, England-based Curtis Osano, Patrick Osiako, who plays in Israel, are among 12 foreign-based players called up for the Twin World Cup qualifying matches in the month of June. Osano, who plays for Wimbledon FC in England, is receiving his first call-up to the national team stars. They immediately start the assignment in the 6th June World Cup qualifier against the Super Eagles of Nigeria in Nairobi and Namibia 1 week after. Two South Africa-based players, David Geteri and Brian Mandela, are also in the list released by Adela Mrushe this evening. 4 players were dropped from the regional list of 25 local best players. The coach says he could call up more local best players in the course of the week. Arnold Rigi and Dennis Oliech feature in the list of foreign best players, though they'll not be part of the squad that faces Nigeria since they are serving suspensions. Kenya held Nigeria to a 1 draw in Calabar last month in the first leg. FC Leopards and Zuku have vowed to go ahead with a 23 million shilling Singwe TV deal. Zuku's Richard Bell and AFC's Walter Onyino said in Nairobi today that Zuku and FC Leopards have not contravened any contractual benefits between KPL and the pay TV channel SuperSport.
Whatsoever in the contracts between the Kenya Premier League and SuperSport which prohibits a club from doing what they want to do with their own intellectual property. Nothing. If there was, we wouldn't be doing this contract.
The truth of the matter is, Leopards are the ones who approached Zuku, and we approached them with properties that we own and patented, and we have those rights, and they're not shared in KPL. What is shared is the league, and that's what the SuperSport contract covers.
Tuskers FC chances of defending the Kenyan Premier League title dwindled further this past weekend after losing 2-1 to Chemelil Sugar. The Brewers, though ranked 10th and have played fewer matches than their competitors and the league, are left watching the likes of Thika United, Sofapaka, Chemelil Sugar and KCB tour above them. Thika United dethroned Sofapaka after picking a point in the 1-1 draw with Mathare United on Sunday. Mathare have remained in the lower part of the table for the better part of the season and have company in Sony Sugar, who left the basement position to homeboys. KCB perennial pesetas dropped to 4th as Gor Mahia climbed up to 5th. Surprise package Bandari FC steady climb was again punctured in Naivasha when they lost to Flowerman Karatori Sports by a solitary goal. All right, and that's all for KTN Sports today. I'm Nicholas Mudimbo. Have yourself a good night.